Welcome to the Women Writing Podcast. I'm your book coach, Lisa Kovala. I'm an author, accelerator, certified fiction and memoir book coach, and the author of Sister's Winter War, Surviving Struthof, and the upcoming Like Water for Weary Souls. And as a Finnish Canadian, I love my coffee. Take a coffee break with us as we chat about all things writerly with authors and publishing industry professionals. In today's episode of Women Writing, I'm having a coffee break with Jes Trudel. Jes is a literary agent with The Rights Factory who was a freelance editor for 15 plus years. She is a storytelling instructor who has taught workshops to thousands of people around the world, including as a guest speaker with the Society of Children's Book Writers and Illustrators, the 12 by 12 Picture Book Challenge, the Toronto Writing Workshop, and Write for Kids, to name a few. She has contributed to Boldface, Children's Book Insider, and the SCBWI blog. She founded writingcommunity.ca. Hi, Jes. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm so good. Thank you so much for coming for a coffee break. What are you taking a coffee break from today?
Well, I already had like 3 cups of coffee, so I'm probably taking a break from coffee.
Love it.
Actually, it's
Awesome.
my last day in Toronto today after doing the conference and then the CCBC Book Awards last night. So I'm just waiting for my flight. So
Okay, awesome. And so you were at the CANScape, which is the Canadian Society of Children's Authors and Illustrators and Performers. What a long name. No wonder they call it CANScape.
thank you. Thank you for being the one to pronounce the acronym for me and not making me do it on the fly.
Right? So how was the conference and did you enjoy it? By the time this airs, it'll be December, but we're just days off of that conference. How was it?
It was really good. Yeah, it was only a Saturday, so it was 3 days ago as of now,
Yeah,
2 months ago as of the airing of this podcast.
right.
And yeah, it was really good. It was it's a smaller conference, so you're not there like with hundreds and hundreds of people.
Yeah.
So it's nice and intimate. You really get to know people, get a chance to talk to people like multiple times throughout the day. Like you really get to connect with people. Great
Amazing.
workshops and panels where you can ask questions, and yeah, it was just overall a really good day.
So good. And uh I imagine this, like when you go there several times, you start to meet people over and over again, and there's a little community of people that you start to get to know. Was this the first time you were at the conference, or have you been before?
Yeah, it was my first time. There were a
Okay.
lot of people there that do attend over and over again.
Yeah.
And you can really see how that like community has grown over the years, like seeing the people that are regulars that all know each other, have really connected, and then being like the new person, but they're all like welcoming you in is like really nice. And
Yeah, amazing, amazing. So, I love what you have created in your community with your writing community, and now you're working as a literary agent for children's books. So what brought you to deciding, oh, I want to be a literary agent? That's my, or did it like, how did that come about? Because you've been doing a lot, done a lot in the literary field for years and years before you started becoming an agent. So how did that kind of transpire?
yeah, I have a desire to get into publishing for basically my entire adult life. I wanted to get an English major, a communications major, something like that. But I couldn't afford university right out of high school, so I went to college for business. I think was that made have a practical job or doing an impractical thing like publishing. And then I tried for a really long time to break into publishing, and it was really hard because I live in Northern Ontario, as I believe you do as well. And back then, there wasn't really a lot of remote opportunities. So, coming from Timmins, there just wasn't really opportunities to get into publishing whatever field I decided to get into. Originally I thought maybe I'd get into like magazine publishing, like fashion magazine or something. That's kind of my interest in the early 20s. And then over time, I was like, okay, maybe editorial at a publishing house, but it didn't matter which avenue of publishing I wanted to go to. Like none of them had opportunities for me remotely, at least with how competitive it is. Every time somebody applies for a job in publishing, like 200 people apply. Like it's really
Really
competitive. Yeah,
crazy.
exactly, for sure. Um, but agenting was always something that was on my radar as one of the many avenues in publishing I could gravitate towards. And then I became a real estate agent. And I
Okay.
really enjoyed being a real estate agent because it married my like love of sales um, and marketing and all that.
Yeah.
And I still got to be like, because it was, you make your own schedule. I could still write on the side and do
Mhm.
publishing related things on the side, which is where writingcommunity.ca
Yeah.
developed. Um, and yeah, I just really loved representing clients and I was really good at it. So when the pandemic hit and real estate kind of like came to a halt for a couple of years there, I decided, okay, I'm gonna try really hard to become a literary agent. And it was still really hard, but remote opportunities opened up because of COVID. And so after 2 years of trying, I managed to get there. And yeah, I love it.
Amazing. So do you think that because of COVID, there that the ability to work remotely as literary agent was that more open then, or like what do you think about that? Is it because you're still in Timmins, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so you really are working with clients in sort of a more remote way, I guess.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. And most of my work that I do with my clients or meetings that I have with editors are virtual, but it's such a norm now. Like even a lot of editors that used to be based in, centers of Toronto or New York have, moved to more affordable cities and work
Yeah.
with their publishers. So it's more of a norm. People kind of understand that there's room to work virtually in this industry. And you don't, not everyone needs to be local. And then, of course, still lots of publishing jobs that have to be in person for real tangible reasons. But I think on the editorial side of things, it's a little bit.
Yeah. Okay. That's really interesting. It's funny how, as terrible a time as it was, it sort of has opened up this whole other world for us, being able to connect with people farther afield and just, even like these podcasts, right? Being able to just get on a Zoom. It's so easy. You don't have to be in the same room with somebody. You don't have to travel for that. So I love that you're working from Timmins and representing the North here. It's great. So I'm also interested in your niche is working with children's authors. What drew you to that? Because there's every kind of book, and you decided, okay, children's literature is my jam. Was it
Yeah,
always
yeah.
that, or did it come to be that?
Well, I mean, obviously, I like to read a lot as a kid, so I grew up on children's literature. And then I don't know, as an adult, I never like grew into adult literature. Like I read adult books
Yeah,
on occasion, but I always seem to like gravitate back towards children's books.
yeah,
And I think part of it is just like there's some beauty in the simplicity of it all. And because the books are shorter generally, like you might have a 50,000 word novel instead of a 100,000 word novel, it's more digestible for me as someone with ADHD. I'm a very bad slow reader. So it's more digestible for me. But also, it's such a challenge to write a whole story in a short amount of words.
yeah.
And it's just such a pleasure to see an artist like take that on and just knock it out of the park and like do so much with so little.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. I think that there is a misconception that writing children's books is easier because they're shorter, but that's just not true. I don't think that's true. You have to do so much in a small space and with language that is clear and understandable and is accessible and beautiful at the same time. Like it's a real challenge. Do you are your authors represent like are you representing authors who are writing sort of children's like middle grade like picture books, or are you kind of like a specific area of children's books, or is it all of them?
Yeah, I do everything from board books to light, so I do a little bit of everything. And right now, looking really hard for a graphic novelist because I don't represent a graphic novel yet. But I do have a couple of illustrators on my roster that are
Yeah.
working on projects. So I'd really love to see a really great graphic novel cross my desk. I've had a couple of like close ones that haven't quite gotten there yet, but yeah, there's been a little bit of it.
Yeah, amazing. So, if an author had an idea for a graphic novel, they would not necessarily have to do the graphics and the text. Like you can work with an artist on that. Is that what you're saying? That they could actually have um, a collaboration, or is it that a person who's writing a graphic novel is really doing all of that, the art, the text?
Generally, all of it. It's really hard to sell a book to a graphic novel specifically to a publisher when it's text only,
Okay.
just because it's such an expensive book to produce.
Yeah.
It's so complex, and it's just really hard to present a text only graphic novel
Yeah.
that really captures the essence of what that book could be. So,
Yeah.
if you
Because
try to
there's
submit
such
a
a,
text only script,
yeah, it's true.
yeah, it's
I'm
hard
thinking
for the
about it now,
editor
like
to.
the graphics and the text work in tandem. Like so it's hard to even convey the context of the text if there's no graphic, I suppose.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people have the misconception that picture books, because we can submit a text-only picture book and they'll pair you with an illustrator, that a graphic novel is the same.
Right.
And it's just not. It's not
Yeah.
at all. Like a graphic novel is very dialogue heavy.
Yeah.
Most of what the actual text page is very little information. It's almost all dialogue with few maybe cutaways for context, whatever it might be.
Right.
And picture books are the opposite. If you submit like a text, a dialogue heavy picture book, it
Yeah.
almost always falls flat. So they're like kind of like complete opposites from each other in that sense. And a lot of picture book writers think that they can just like translate into a graphic novel and that's going to work, and it doesn't work the same way at all. So
Oh,
it's just there's a lot of really big nuances there that people
yeah.
don't understand always,
Yeah.
and it leads and it affects the industry because everyone wants to try their hand or dabble in writing a feature book or writing a graphic novel or whatever seems trendy at the time and what seems easy, and then they're submitting first, second drafts to agents and trying and just filling our inboxes. And then we don't have time to educate everybody
Right.
on, what the standards are and what the
Yeah.
expectations are and all of
Yeah.
that. And it's really on the creators to do
Yeah.
that research and really understand, like dive into it, read a ton,
Yeah.
write a ton, get into critique groups, join writer groups and get other people's opinions before trying to convince a publisher or an agent
Yeah.
to.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. I think for all writers in any genre too, just knowing your specific genre and what reading widely in it because it should go to the agent or the publisher in the best shape it can be before, you can't expect them to go, oh, well, we like it, but also go do all these things. Like that's not the role. Do you find like, I mean, it's hard to put a number on these things, but is there like sort of a percentage of work that comes to you that you're like, just that person needs to, like, they need to go do the work first. They need to, like, is there stuff that you just outright go, nope. And then is there a number that kind of those are the ones that are more under consideration. Like I hear that there's a lot of submissions that they're too early or they're just not ready.
Yeah, I don't have exact numbers on this, obviously, because I don't track it, but I would say a solid 10% of what I receive is just stuff that hasn't even, like, there seems to be no thought put into it whatsoever, no research, no understanding of the industry, nothing at all. And then maybe another 10% of like well-meaning people that, think that they understand but don't understand yet, but they're trying and can see the effort. Um, Thankfully, most of what I receive is at least, even if I can't represent everything and not everything is, in my opinion, ready for submission. At least most of what I receive is, at least I can see the effort and I can see
Yeah.
if they've
Well,
done
that's
research and have some understanding. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's very promising because I thought the number would be way higher of people trying to submit things and just, oh, I wrote a picture book. Just throw it. Let's just try. But that's good if it's like 10% doesn't feel as daunting as, getting a lot more books that you have to wade through. So that's at least good that folks are taking it seriously and really trying to learn craft and trying to put the best book forward. And then of course, from like, would you say what percentage? I mean, I'm asking numbers, which is ridiculous because I never ask numbers and I don't know any, but of the submissions you receive, like how many move forward, would you say in a ballpark?
Well, depends on what you define as move forward. So I say I probably request polls or additional manuscripts or R&Rs on about, less than 20%, not the
Yeah.
exact number
Yeah.
of what I receive.
Yeah.
Um, the rest, in between of the automatic no's, that 20% automatic no's and that 20% asking for more, that
Yeah.
remaining 60% is just like people who, I just didn't, the pages just didn't grab me, or the pitch just really didn't make sense or make me
Yeah.
desire to read the sample. Just kind of like, it's kind of that no man's land. But I try to still give everybody that queries me hears back from me, and everybody that queries me gets some kind of personalized response. It's not like I haven't individually typed out every email, but
Yeah.
I have templates that kind of let you know where you got in the process so that you're not flying completely blind.
Yeah.
Um, because I've been a querying writer and I know what it's like on the other side going like, is my query letter awful? Are my pages awful?
Yeah.
What am I doing wrong? Am I doing something fundamentally wrong? Am I breaking some rule I'm not aware of? So it kind of just gives them an idea of what's not wasn't,
Yeah.
at least for me. And it's always a personal opinion. I always say, it's maybe another agent's going to feel differently, but
Hmm.
here's my stopping point.
Yeah. And I appreciate that so much because that as you know, that querying process is really can be quite stressful. And you might be sending out to lots of people and publishers and agents and sometimes you just don't hear back like after 6 months or after 4 months, if you don't hear from us, it's a no. Well, okay, but also you're you're I love that you're sending out some response to the person so that they know, okay, um, that's no, and I can close the door on that one, but also a little bit of feedback is lovely because it doesn't always happen in this industry, right?
And I mean, I do the same thing with editors. Like I get ghosted by editors all the time. And, I have to, for the sake of my client, it's my duty to nudge that editor until I get a response, right? So,
Yeah.
it's my job to be annoying.
Yeah.
So,
It's
so
all
I get
about
the same thing.
communication, like I think that's incredibly important. And I know everyone's busy and there's a lot going on and everyone has different obligations, but just that little piece of communication makes a world's difference for people, I think, on both sides. I took your webinar on writing a query letter a while back. I want to say, oh, it might have been in the spring. Was that when you did it?
I'm not sure.
You've probably done a lot of them since then. I want to say it was in the spring. And what I really appreciated about that webinar was, um, there's a lot of advice out there about writing query letters and getting your stuff prepared. And I loved that you kind of just dispelled some of the myths around that, around what agents are looking for, or that they'll immediately reject something if, all kinds of things that we've heard, and that you kind of makes the author feel a little nervous about what they're doing in the query letter. And I love that you just kind of softened it and was like, okay, it might not this, that, or the other thing, but if this grabs my attention, then I might ask for a full. Like I just thought that was so much felt more human in a lots of ways than some of the advice you might Google online. Not to say that it's bad advice. It's just that it might be a little bit more stringent than some agents are. What's your thought there about writing queries and having to sort of follow a template or follow a perfectly crafted query letter?
Yeah, I mean, like it's important to follow the standards because it does make it easier when an agent or an editor is going through, 100 queries in a couple of hours. If it follows a standard pattern, it's easier then for them to find the information that they need. So it is good to kind of follow those standards. And at the same time, you don't want to like try to do something like too outlandish and just come across inappropriate or like trying to get attention
Yeah.
like in a negative way. So like it is important to kind of follow those rules. But I think it's also important to just like be human in this industry, like you said. I think there's a lot of agents I hear and see them posting on social media and where they're being unreasonable, in my opinion. You know what I mean? Um, and I understand why they do that because, they have to deal with so much
Yeah.
crap on a day-to-day basis that, they don't have time and they're just trying to do what they can with the very little time that they have. But for me personally, because I'm neurodivergent, I feel like most of the time when that happens, it's the people who are neurodivergent that are the ones getting filtered out by those arbitrary rules, right?
Right.
So it frustrates me when I see,
Yeah.
agents saying that they're like they make the query letter process complicated to filter out the people who can't follow instructions, for
Right.
example,
Yeah.
or like they just make it so hard to submit sometimes. And that was my problem when I was a querying writer is it would take me like an hour to
Mhm.
submit like two queries.
Yeah.
And I was like exhausted afterwards because
Yeah.
of the amount of mental effort it took to do it.
Mhm.
So when I became an agent and I was setting up my query manager, I was very intentional about making the process as easy as possible
I love that.
and providing an option too to email me directly. If for some reason the form you just can't do it, just
Mhm.
email me. It's
Yeah.
okay, no questions asked.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to like make disabled people unable to query me.
Yeah. 100%.
And you should never assume you know what people are capable of, like
Yeah.
what's easy and what's hard, you know?
Yeah.
And the same goes for, other marginalized people of color, or queer people, like all kinds of marginalized people. It's you don't have to be disabled to struggle with these things because a
Yeah.
lot of times being marginalized means you haven't had the opportunities other people have had to get educated on the process.
Yeah.
Like a lot of things we learn about publishing, we learn at conferences, and conferences are cost prohibitive for a lot of marginalized people that generally are poorer than other people. So, when an agent only accepts submissions, via people they meet at conferences. Well, that's another form of filtering out, marginalized people, for example. So I just really try to be really intentional about how I do things to try and make it as easy as possible and accessible as possible. And I'm sure I still get things wrong, but I do that.
No, I think that's incredible. I remember too that same process of writing those query letters and now there's a lot of those online platforms that too forms to fill out. And although they're similar often across different publishers and agents, but um, everyone wants something slightly different. And like you say, it can be really exhausting to search the search up the publisher and find out what they're looking for and, adapt your pages to be 1.5 line spacing and 11-point font and whatever, like you're changing and changing and changing. And I always thought, why are these not standard? Why are we not having one set of questions, one platform, one, but I mean, I guess that makes, like you say, publishers or agents might go, okay, well, you can't follow those instructions, so it's just an easy no. But I love that
It's
you
clear
said,
though.
mm,
It's clear most agents, most editors are not like that.
yeah, that's
They
good.
right? Like I see some agents and some
Yeah.
editors talking on social media, in
Yes.
person,
Yeah.
whatever, about these things.
Yeah.
So I don't want to make it sound like,
No,
I'm
I
some
think it,
unicorn in the
yeah,
industry. Like it's, there are
very
most
individualistic.
are well intentioned. Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
Most are
I
well
totally, yeah,
intentioned people.
I totally agree. But I think what happens is where the when we're looking it up online, we're getting that kind of standard set of rules and advice. So that's when we as authors are like, okay, I have to, and there's a lot of pressure to get it right, and not realizing that maybe at the other end of that is a human being who also doesn't need it to be so perfect either. But so this is such.
And
I love that
there
you're
is
explaining that.
there
Yeah.
yeah, there is kind of like a standard. Like most
Yeah.
people say like if you do like double spaced 12-point times New Roman font,
Good.
you're probably safe.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So like there are some like
Yeah.
acceptable standards or
Yeah.
whatever.
And I
But
also get that
if
too because
anybody's
yeah, you were gonna say.
I was gonna say if anybody's saying like no because you went 1.5% or
Yeah.
1.5 spacing instead of two, and they're rejecting you for that reason alone, then I don't want them to do your
Maybe
APA
you probably don't.
anyway.
Yeah, that's a good point. Well, even as a high school teacher, I was often like when I had my students submit work, like I had the standards about how to do MLA formatting, how to have the headers, how to like I taught them all those things to submit so that when I got 90 papers to mark, they all looked the same. And then I could really focus on what they said in the paper. So, and then when somebody would, people would not follow those rules and send, then now I'm spending time, explaining to them how to do the formatting. So I do get why people want sort of a particular way of something being submitted because it's so much faster and easier to read them and focus on the what you've said within it than weird formatting and hard to read text and some weird
Yeah, like
script
I
or
mean,
something.
please don't send me a manuscript in like Comic Sans font and
Right?
pink
Because
font
it's
color. You know
cute.
what I mean? Like, yeah,
Like,
exactly. Like I said, don't be try to be cute and gimmicky,
yeah.
right? Like,
Like in the 80s when we used to put our resumes on colored paper to make it stand out from the pack, like that not necessary. We thought it was
yeah,
fun,
yeah, yeah,
but
exactly.
maybe
So
the
there's a
employers
line
were like,
between,
no.
yeah. So as long as there's a line between like
Yeah.
being too picky
Yeah.
and you know
Yeah.
filtering out people who are finicky
I
and
love that.
not paying attention to others, right?
Yeah. And
But
just
there's a
bringing,
nice in between gray zone
yeah.
that should be a little more forgiving sometimes.
Yes. Yeah. So look at the rules, follow the rules as best you can, but don't panic when you press send and
Yeah,
you think,
especially if you're submitting to me. Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Especially if you're submitting to me. Like
it'll be
I
okay.
was sending out submissions this morning, and I noticed I had an extra that in
Yes.
my very first line of the email after sending like three of them.
Of
And
course.
I was just
After you
like,
send it.
really?
Yeah.
Really?
Yes.
And I just took
So
out the
human.
extra that and forgot about it until you just reminded me. So
Right?
it's fine.
100%. 100%. Well, and that's exactly when it happens, right? As soon as you press send, and then you're like, oh, how did I not just see that after I whatever? That happens all the time. And that's so human. So I think most people will go like, yeah, it's all good. It's all good. Um, so once somebody sends their query to you and you've asked for a full, let's say, and you're like, I love this and I want to sign them. What is that process for an author to go from um maybe getting a contract to actual publication? Is it lengthy?
Sorry, say it again.
So if let's say you've offered somebody a contract, they've signed it, they're in, so they're working with you, and now what's the next thing for them? So or for you, you're sending it out to now various places that you think are possibilities. What does that look like from your end, and what does it look like from the author end? Because I think that's can be a lengthy process to get the book
Yeah.
to publication.
Well, it depends on whether or not the manuscript is submission ready or not. So I'm an editorial agent, so I will often do several rounds of editing with my clients before we ever send anything to the publisher.
Right.
So if I take on a new client and their manuscript ready to go, then I can have it out on submission within a week, But if we have several rounds of edits to do, then it'll depend on how long it's until I'm free to do the edits, how long they take to do the edits, and so on. So it can look really different depending on the project. And then once something is out on submission, like I said, I can get it out on submission pretty quick. Like
Mm.
in a week, I can have it out to 20 or so editors.
Yeah.
But then it's going to be probably 3 months, 6 months, a year, depending on the
Yeah.
editor and the publisher to hear back.
Yeah. Amazing. Yeah. So it can be a lengthy process, right? From the author submitting to actually landing an agent, or possibly if they're going directly to a publisher. So the advantage of having a literary agent over trying to do all of that yourself, what I think most folks know, but perhaps some newer writers might not be quite understanding the difference between submitting directly to a publisher versus having a literary agent who will do that process for you.
Yeah, for sure. This question came up during the Penn State conference this weekend,
Mm,
and the editors that were there said, in Canada, you don't really need them.
right.
I can't really think of a reason. And I let that slide. But there are so many reasons to have an agent, not just so that you can submit. Because that's the difference between U.S. publishing and Canadian publishing. The Canadian publishers are pretty small, and they usually accept submissions directly from writers. Whereas in the US, most publishers only accept through an agent, at least with the larger mid-sized publishers. Even in the US, a lot of small publishers accept submissions directly from creators. So that's what most people think about when they think about getting an agent is it's about access to the
Right.
industry. But there's so much more that agents do that people don't really think about.
Yeah.
Like just like right off the bat, you have a project manager. You have somebody who's going to give you directional advice on this project that you're working on and what the next project's going to be and maybe what the next project after that is going to be. They're the ones who are doing all the submissions for you. So that's time you're saving that you can focus on the creative process.
Right.
You know, they have marketing expertise. They're going to, write that pitch and that blurb for you. They're going to find you your comp titles. They're going to do all of these things that you won't necessarily have to do. You might have already done some of that work writing your query letter, finding comp titles, but chances are your agent's going to completely rewrite your pitch and find completely different content,
Amazing.
right? And then on top of that, your agent works at an agency with like potentially dozens of other agents there. Like when I receive a contract from the publisher, I don't just go through that myself. All the agents in my office are all looking at it
Yeah.
and picking out things
Yeah.
that might need to be changed or just wording that needs to be tweaked or
Yeah.
so yeah, there's like so many different things that agents do that people don't even realize on the back end is happening. And a lot of publishers kind of see agents as adversaries, but not all of them. But I mean that's our job, right? We're looking at the best interests of our clients, and I'm always like reasonable with publishers. Like I try to be reasonable. I mean, I'm just looking to like tweak little wordings and just make sure that my clients' rights are protected.
Mhm.
And as long as the publisher is doing that, and they're also being reasonable and negotiating in good faith, then I don't see it as an absurd process. You
Yeah.
know, some things I fought for and I've gotten, and some things I fought for and I didn't get.
Yeah.
And that's okay because everybody that's what compromise is, and that's
That's right.
essentially what agent is doing for you.
Yeah.
And that's the other thing that agents do that people don't think about is all of that management, relationship management. Like if you are an author or an illustrator and you don't feel like you have the social skills to do all of that relationship management aspect of dealing with editors and presenting yourself in the best light, that's what your agent's going to do for you. They're going to put your best foot forward for you.
Amazing. I love that because I think not all authors, but a lot of authors are introverted, they just want to write their book. Like this gives them an opportunity to say, okay, like you can handle that part of it that I don't necessarily want to deal with any of the conflict. But it becomes a real relationship, doesn't it? It's not just like, client and author. Or I guess agent and client. I think you develop relationships with your authors, especially if you're working with them over time. Are you finding that to be true for you?
Oh yeah, for sure. Like I want to present my clients for years. I don't do just project by project contracts.
Right.
So for me, it's I have touch bases with my clients like video calls like this, like 3 times a year. If they email me, I'm usually responding within 24 hours. Like they know they can reach out to me anytime. I have a lot of them that just text me whenever they need something. We'll jump on a video call that was unplanned just because. And yeah, so like absolutely, my clients are like I'm on friendly basis with my clients.
Yeah,
Just like
sure.
I've never had a client that I've ghosted or
Yeah.
would wait 3 months to hear from me. Um, I have clients that left other agents because they didn't get the attention that they
Right.
need.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
they know if
Yeah.
they are feeling neglected by me, they should let me know. But I have not had that
Right.
sensation.
Yeah. Well, and that's it, right? Because if it is that kind of relationship, and you're not hearing back from the agent, then it leaves you wondering and what's going on. And so just having that access is really nice to be able to just check in and just, you
And
know,
they know that they can nudge me too because I'm a forgetful person. I use Gmail to like manage my
yeah,
stuff. And
yeah,
if I star the email, like that's my to-do list, right? If it has a
yeah,
star, there's an action item attached.
yeah,
So it's every once in a while I forget to put that star and
yeah,
then it falls off the radar, right? So my
yeah,
clients know like if I didn't confirm receipt within 24 hours,
yeah.
they need to nudge me just to make sure I didn't forget.
Love it.
put that stop. Like they know.
Right. Yeah. Great strategy, right? Like it works for everybody and it's clear and the communication is there. And that's incredibly amazing. I love the idea. I do that too with the star. I start because I'm like, oh, there's something here I need. I can't lose this. Just keep the organization. What brings you the most joy as a literary agent?
Ooh, that's a awful thing. Hmm. I mean, it doesn't happen very often, but I really love it when I can put more money in my client's pocket. Like I'm still early in my career, so I haven't had like 100 deals or anything like that to be able to compare to. But that feeling of just like, being able to negotiate that contract and increase the advance or whatever it might be, or even the escalators, whatever it might be by, such and such percentage. I like having those kind of like numbers to like, you
Yeah.
know, I can put a number on it and know
Yeah.
exactly, what I accomplished, right?
That's it.
But I also really love the creative process. Like I said, I'm an editorial agent, and I wrote before I became a literary agent. I still write sometimes, but now my creative well is pull so much from like helping my clients develop their stories and make them better. So I don't write very often myself, but I don't really need to because my creative well is full. So I really love that process as well. We're kind of that back and forth and generating ideas. And my clients are always surprising and impressing me. Like I'll give them a note like something's not working here. And they always come up with some other brilliant way to fix the problem other than what I imagine. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So fun. And I think, yeah, it's interesting. I wouldn't have thought of it as being a place to fill your creative well as an editor, but I think it there like it's you're part of that world, you're part of that person's vision and you're contributing something to it. So yeah, like that's an interesting perspective of the role of the editor, that it is a creative act, not just sort of sometimes we think of editing as being maybe the drier part, like, oh, I'll fix this, fix that. But like I can see that kind of developmental editing, especially being so creative for you. That's
Yeah.
interesting.
To be very clear, I'm not a proofreader.
Yeah,
I am
fair.
not very good at proofreading. I'm a big picture person, not like a small details person.
Yeah,
So I definitely prefer the developmental editing to the editing or the proofreading.
yeah,
I do some line editing with my clients as well.
yeah,
But that is definitely the drier process for me
yeah,
than the developmental editing, like the
yeah.
story development. That's
Yeah,
what
so that proofreading at that end piece before it actually goes to formatting and all of that. So like that's yeah, the developmental editing part I think is super fun. Like because
yeah.
it's a whole world you're playing with and envisioning and seeing where there's a gap or whatever. Yeah, that's so interesting. And so you're not writing as much as you were, but do you envision yourself going back to doing more writing in the future? Or is that something that you think, okay, well, I'm focused on this role now, and what's the plan there, or is there a plan? Is you just gonna go with it?
What is this thing called planning?
Planning.
I do go back to my projects from time to time. Like
Yeah.
I just reread a novel that I wrote 2 years back. And
Yeah.
it's like, hey, this is actually pretty good. I should probably work on this.
Yeah.
And I did receive a grant from the OAC to write a novel last year, which I wrote a good chunk of it, but it still needs to be completed. So I've been looking at that one this weekend, and while I was between
Yeah.
workshops and stuff at the conference, I take a look at it and
Yeah.
dabble away. Which is more of a time factor than
Yes.
I have a good job, I have the agency, like that's like
Yeah.
4 kids, like between those
Yeah.
things, like I'm pretty busy and I just don't really have time for the writing. And as much as I love writing, I can't prioritize that right now. My
Yeah.
clients' work comes first because they're relying on me
Yeah.
to get this process done.
Yeah. And I think that's part of the reality of a writing life or a creative life is there are ebbs and flows because there's other things that like when your kids are younger, you just have that responsibility or when you're full on a job, like there's just different times in your life where writing is comes more forward than at other times. And I think people need to see it as that, right? It's not that you step away completely. It's that you can dabble here and there and go back to your work if you want to, but there'll be another segment of your life where, oh, I'm going to focus more on this now or focus on that. I don't know. I worry about people who get concerned that they're, well, I don't write every day, so I'm not really a writer. You're a writer.
Yeah,
Like you're still a
and I
writer.
think there's a bit of a misconception as well because of social media. Like the average age that of debut writers is actually quite old, like not old, but older.
Yeah.
Most people, don't get to write until their kids are all grown up and gone off to college or they've retired or whatever. Like that's when they're able to make time to write. So the average age of most published authors is actually higher than most people think of because the writers we hear about more often are the ones that are super active on social media. They're on TikTok and they're like all of these things.
Yeah.
But like the older generation isn't on social media as much as the younger generation,
True.
right? So you see all these young authors that are,
Yeah.
super famous and have like, huge platforms and all this stuff, but that's not the majority of authors. That's just the ones you see most often.
Right.
So it's just a misconception. I think a lot of people feel like, oh my God, I'm almost 40. I'm like running out of time, but like
Yeah.
the vast majority of writers haven't even started yet.
Yeah.
And that's
Amazing. Yeah, that's
yeah.
actually incredible insight because that's true. I think there's so many of us who really didn't focus on it. Even if we were writing, like I wrote as a kid, I wrote as a teen, I kind of went away from it during my university and into my early working years. It took a long time before I actually started to focus on it again. So it just happens that way. Like you just have to flow with it, but you don't have to let it completely go. I love that. So one last question I have for you is, what advice do you have for folks? Like maybe there's misconceptions about um, what what somebody might need to do to get a literary agent. Is there any advice you have for somebody before they start sending out those query letters?
I mean, the thing you hear all the time, write the book, but also polish the book and get involved in the writers groups. Like there's writers groups for like every niche imaginable out there now. Like you can find beta readers in all kinds of corners of the web. Obviously, be careful. You want to make sure you trust the people that you're sharing your work with. Don't get your mom to be your beta reader unless your mom's a famous author
Right.
and can be really and is good at giving really harsh feedback.
Yeah.
Um, and be ready for harsh feedback,
Yeah.
right? Like a lot of agents don't provide feedback, but at some point in the process, if you get an agent, and that agent's able to sell this manuscript to an editor, you're going to need to do more edits.
Yeah.
Like just be prepared for the fact that your book is never done
Yeah. That's
until
true.
it's on the shelf, you know?
That's right.
So just be ready. Don't get too attached to your work. Like you need to try to remain as objective as possible. Take time away from your book before you
Yeah.
consider it ready. A
Mm.
lot of people will do 10 rounds of edits and go like, okay, I've edited it enough, I can send it out. But all of those 10 rounds were back to back to back to back to back. There's no
Right.
break to read something else, to work on something else. And taking that time away for, a few weeks, a few months, whatever it is, and coming back to it with fresh eyes, it's amazing what you'll see
Yeah.
that you didn't before. So when before you decide that your book is ready to submit, if you haven't taken at least a few weeks away from that book during the revision process, and if you haven't had anybody that is a prolific writer or reader in your genre look at it, and if you yourself haven't done as much as you could possibly do with it,
Yeah.
then you haven't met the criteria
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
anybody.
Great advice. For every genre and every writer at any
Every,
stage.
every every age group, every genre,
Yeah.
every writer.
And whether you're experienced writer or not, excellent advice. Thanks so much, Jess. I just enjoy chatting with you, and you have so much knowledge and expertise. And I'm so excited that you're on this journey. And I love, I want to say your sort of northern, friendly, kind sensibilities that you bring to your work, because I think authors really will appreciate that. And I'm sure the clients that you have just love that about you. So thank you so much for
Try
sharing.
to try to be approachable, and I hope I'll never become, the kind of jaded agent that doesn't like to hear from authors anymore. I still get just random authors that, always
Amazing.
respond.
I love
You
that.
know, I mean, always respond as long as it's not, spam or weird or
That's right.
creepy. But
Yeah, exactly.
so I hope to always be an approachable agent in this industry.
Amazing. Thank you for sharing your insights. We really appreciate it. And enjoy your travels home.
Oh, thank you. Yes. Hopefully my flight's on time.
All right, take care. Do you have writing goals that you want to achieve in 2025? If you need support, encouragement, accountability, and community, join the Women Writing Circle. We meet bi weekly to set writing goals and get pages done. Go to Women Writing on Substack and subscribe. Let's create a little magic this year. Thanks for taking time out of your schedule to have a coffee break with us at Women Writing. Don't forget to subscribe to Women Writing on Substack. If you like this episode, share it with someone who needs a writing break and a little inspiration. Happy writing! Thank you to Michael Jensen for his original music and editing, and to Mia Jensen for the logo design.